All right, so our 6 ounces of sugar equals 3/4 of a cup. All right, so let's write that down. And then we're gonna put it back in the bowl because I wanna mix the zest in with the sugar. So this is a very technical term. We're gonna smush the lemon zest into the sugar. And this helps prevent it from having large lumps of zest inside of the finished baked good. We want the sugar to help separate all those strands of lemon zest. See, because it can stay as a clump, so you want to really work the sugar into the lemon zest and really separate all of those strands of lemon. And this is a fun activity. If you've got a little one with you, they could do this. It's like playing with sand, so that'll keep them occupied. I usually have my daughter helping me or my son, and this is something they'd like to do. All right, so we're gonna get all of that mixed in and set it aside and start with the other ingredients. So here are 30 ounces of flour. That's a lot of flour, and so we're gonna use a little math to try to figure this out. All right, so the best way to measure spoon when you're flour when you're using a measuring cup is the spoon method. You spoon it into the measuring cup. That helps prevent it from getting packed in too much, and that's the most accurate way if you're using a measuring cup to do it. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure out how much 1 ounce equals, and then we can figure out how much is in this 30 ounces. So we're gonna remove 1 cup of flour, and then we will see how much this weighs after we've removed 1 cup. And you'd like to always fill it more and then level it off so we get an accurate measurement. So I need 2 hands to level it, sorry. All right, so I've removed 1 cup of flour, and this was at 30, well, 29.95, but 30, and now we're down to 25.43. So if we round up, it's 1 cup of flour is 5 ounces. So 1 cup of flour equals 5 ounces. All right, the bell rang, I gotta teach a class, I'll be right back. Okay, so if we have 5 ounces and 1 cup of flour, and we have 30 ounces, so there we go. We would need 6 cups of flour because 6 times 5 equals 30. All right, so just remember, you're always doing math in pastry or in cooking, because you always have to remember how to figure things out with your weights and your measures. So we need 6 cups of flour. And so now we've got, I think I've got all our ingredients measured out right here. We've got our 3 eggs, our blueberries, baking soda, 3 tablespoons, our sugar and our lemon zest, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, our 1.5 cups of milk, our 30 ounces or 6 cups of all-purpose flour. And now what we need to do is we're gonna sift the flour. So we can use either this, or if you have one of these, you can use one of these. All right, so we're gonna sift the flour and the dry ingredients. So we're just gonna add the dry ingredients in here, okay? And that will mix in as we're sifting it. And where's my spoon? Well, anyhow, I can use a spatula to do it. We're gonna pour this in and sift it. And this sifter is a handy little gadget, gizmo. It's got a crank on it, so I can crank it through, or if you don't even want to use the crank, you just go like this. And we're sifting it because that aerates the flour. We don't want any lumps in the flour. We want to aerate it, make it light and fluffy. And also you want to check for any debris that might be in the flour. You want to make sure there's nothing in there. And so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do it twice actually, because I really want to make sure our flour is completely lightened. So I'll be back in a minute. So our flour has been sifted twice, and here is our sugar with the lemon zest. And we're going to add that, and we need to mix all of that together. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do our cut and butter method. Here is our butter out of the freezer. We're going to add all of that. And the way we're going to cut it in is that we're going to use this tool, which is called a pastry blender. And we're gonna cut the butter in using that and continuously stir in all of this. Get all of that sugar mixed in and then add in all of the butter. So that will take us a while. Cutting in the butter with all of that butter will take a while, and a little elbow grease. So I'm gonna have to use the spatula to get all of that out. But you can see it's still nice and flaky because I did keep it in the freezer. So this is why you want to have all of that separated and grated on the box grater, because it makes it easier to cut the butter in. So all of that butter, we're going to add it. So I'm just going to show you right now, though, quickly how to do it. You're going to do this rocking motion and pressing down. It's the rocking motion and pressing down that's going to cause the butter to be cut into the flour. So we're going to do that, and we're going to keep doing it until this mixture resembles sand. We're looking for what would look like sand, and all the butter is crumbled and cut into, we don't have any lumps left. All right, so I've been using the pastry blender for about 5 minutes, and you can see now the flour looks like sand, and I don't see any more lumps of butter, and it looks like sand. And that's what texture we're looking for, consistency, before we can add the rest of our ingredients. So here are 3 eggs, and I'm gonna break them up before I add them into the milk. And then I'll stir them into our milk and then add that into our flour. And if you notice the blueberries, before I cut in all the butter, I added about a handful of flour over the blueberries. Now, why did I do that? Well, I'm gonna coat the blueberries in the flour. So that way when I mix them into the rest of the dough, if they break or you don't want blueberry juice all over it, because then it'll turn out to be blue, and you don't want your scones blue. We want them studded with blue dots, okay? Now, when I looked at this and I saw the blueberries, I thought, maybe that's not enough blueberries, but if you notice, these are ginormous blueberries. So, should you be in the store and you're able to buy blueberries, you want to get small ones, all right? So, this would be great for a pie or, a fruit tart, having these giant blueberries on top, but that's not the best for this recipe. The best for this recipe would be smaller blueberries. That way you make sure you get a blueberry in each scone. So I'm mixing the egg into the milk. Just using a fork is fine, but you do want to mix it in before we add it into our dry ingredients. And then we will fold in the blueberries at the end. Now, if I had some extra dried blueberries, I might add a couple just to make there more blueberries in the scone. So you could add dried blueberries to it if you want, just maybe a handful. All right, so our milk and eggs have been completely combined, and we're just gonna pour this right into the bowl. I'm just gonna pour it around, and then we can fold it in. We don't wanna mix too much. We don't want to over mix it because we want to keep our. All right, we've added the milk and eggs to our flour, and we're going to fold. What is folding? Folding means you're going to drag your spatula through the batter from on the bowl 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, like so, and then flip it over, okay? And then you rotate the bowl as you go. So you're constantly flipping over the batter as you're working. And this way it will gently stir in the liquid into the dry ingredients. You don't want to overmix it. That will make your scone tough. Now, before all of the flour has been completely mixed in, we want to add in the blueberries, all right? So we're just going to sprinkle those around the bowl instead of dumping them all in one lump in the center, all right? And that will help us when we're folding it in. So again, you're going to continue to fold and add these all in. So I got to do that off camera. There is our finished dough. And now you can scoop this with an ice cream scoop and make them like nice fat biscuit size ones, or you can put it out onto the counter and cut them out with circle cutters, or I'm gonna put them out and make it sort of like a square and then cut them so we have square scones. I find that's a nice way of doing it. So I'm gonna dump this out onto the parchment paper. Make sure I get every little bit. And then you can see that the bottom wasn't completely mixed in. So I'm just gonna fold that in just a little bit, I don't want to overwork the dough. We want it light and fluffy, and that's why we took so much care into grating the butter on the box grater and double sifting our flour. So I don't want to ruin all that work now by over mixing or kneading it in like it was bread dough. So I'm just going to gently pat this down, and I'm going to sort of make sort of like a rectangle or a square, and then I will cut them. So let me finish that and show you what it looks like. So I have a square, and last time I patted them really thin and it wasn't as good. So these are kind of, you know, thick. They're not too thin. And I'm gonna use the pizza wheel to cut through them. And we wanna make squares. So I'll start off by indicating the center, and then I want them to be a little small. I don't want them ginormous. So from the center, I'm going to make 3. So, like so. And then those will be my guidelines. All right. So I'll go down the middle first. If your dough is sticking too much to the pizza wheel, you can just dust it with a little bit of flour. And again, we're not looking for exact. This is not, you know, these are supposed to look a bit rustic. And we're not looking for cookie cutter squares. So I'm just going to go right through. Like so. And I'm just eyeballing it, but if you want, you could use a ruler and measure them to make sure they're equal. And now, good thing that they're on the parchment paper, because this is where it makes life easy. I'm just going to rotate the parchment paper to make the next series of cuts. So again, I'm going to look for the halfway mark. It's about halfway. And then we're going to do the 3. 1, 2, 3. So I make 2 marks. And then on this side, the same. I want 3 out of each side. All right, so then I'll cut down the middle. And finish cutting all of these. So I'd make this first set of cuts. And then I have this nice spatula, remove it, and then I'm going to put them onto the half-sheet pan with a silk pat on it, and then we'll bake these. And before I put them in the oven, so here we have one. Blueberry fell out. Let's just stick that back in. And then I'll put on the next one. Okay, before I put them in the oven, you could brush them with a bit of cream or milk and then sprinkle on some sugar, but I'm just gonna actually I don't have cream at the moment, so I'm just gonna sprinkle it with some of this turbinado sugar, and that gives it a nice extra sweetness and crunchy top. So that's our sugar in the raw, turbinado sugar. And I'm gonna put them into a 325-degree oven. Oops, I have it set at 350, so I better turn it down. 325, so let me get all of this done and I'll finish it. All right, the timer has gone off. And let's see. Okay, let's check and see if they're done. We're looking for golden brown on the bottom. Ooh, nice golden brown. All right, we're gonna get these out, and then in the next batch, 325, that was about 18 minutes. And you know, you might want to cut them a bit bigger if you're at home, but since I'm going to take these upstairs and share them with some students, we have to make them a bit smaller so that we have enough to go around. And I'm going to put all of these in now and hopefully get them done in time before the next class starts. Yay! All right, so you guys, hope you have enjoyed our lemon blueberry scone recipe. And again, let's go over it. It is 1 to 1.5 cups of blueberries, 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of cold unsalted butter, 2 tablespoons of lemon zest, 3/4 cup of sugar, 6 cups of all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons baking powder, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 3 eggs, large size, 1.5 cups of whole milk, and then additional turbinado sugar to sprinkle on the top, about 2 tablespoons, okay? So anyhow, I hope you will try this recipe and love them.